Chapter 3 Silence Before the Roar. Zobella crept through the underbrush like a whisper through tall grass. Her braid of bones was now securely tightly around her wrist, each segment tapping softly against the others with her movements. Her eyes scanned the shadows with predator stillness. Every twitch of leaf and flicker of bird registered, cataloged, dismissed, and noted. She found the mages before they found her. They were coming slowly, 6 figures in dark robes, one of them dragging a bundle of wet branches behind him with a trail of broken twigs marking their path. The other 2 were too busy looking over their shoulders to notice the elf girl perched silently in the crook of a tree ahead of them, a thin dagger already balanced in her fingers. She watched and waited. Her ears twitched. She saw a figure in the deeper woods, not with them, not part of their group. It moved between the trees like something melted into shadow, pausing only when the mages paused, never drawing too close. A scout, perhaps, or worse, a predator deciding how hungry it was. Zobella's eyes narrowed. She took a slow breath, then exhaled through her nose. The chill of grief wrapped around her spine like a second skin, but it didn't numb her. It honed her. Her grief was clarity. She dropped silently from the branch and hit the ground running. Zobella moved like a feline, silent and sure. The returning mages were barely 50 paces away now, dragging their firewood with grim expressions and half-worn wards flickering on their sleeves. She didn't announce herself, just stepped into their periphery, startling them with how suddenly she was there. "Back to your camp," she said quietly. "Now." Butler blinked, confused. "What? Why?" "Go." There was no panic in her voice, no raised tone, just a cold, perfect clarity that demanded obedience. Even among her elders it carried weight. The limping mage nodded quickly and the group adjusted course. Zobella didn't follow them. She turned away from the path leading to the stream and deeper into the woods. She moved carefully, deliberately now, not running, but no longer sneaking either. Her steps were just heavy enough to be heard. She could feel it behind her, a presence heavy, patient, and hungry. The wind shifted, and she smelled him before she saw him. Sweat and fur, but it was no mere animal. A cold bestial intelligence rippled through the underbrush just beyond her line of sight. She veered off the trail, stepping into a shallow depression in the land, dry leaves crushed under her boots. She made no effort to hide now. A low breath exhaled from the trees, then a voice not quite human, but not quite beast either. "You're not one of the humans." From the gloom between 2 black trunks, a pair of eyes emerged, glowing yellow and faintly slitted. King Nork's Barian stepped forward without hurry, like a predator with no need to rush in its kill. He stood nearly 7 feet tall, cloaked in a patchwork of midnight furs and lacquered bone plates. His long limbs flexed beneath the skin like drawn rope, and his fangs showed even when his mouth was closed. His posture was upright, wolfish, but not hunched. Regal in a primal way, like an ancient god of the hunt. "You reek of mourning," he said, tilting his head. "The other one, your blood." Zobella held her ground. "My brother was killed today." "Gone." He bared his teeth. "One less to fight. One less to kill." She said nothing, fingers tightening subtly around the handle of her dagger. Nork stepped closer, not aggressively, just confidently, as if he'd already decided she wouldn't try to run. "I had thought to cull the weak tonight," he said, almost conversational. "Before the tournament begins. Fewer mouths, fewer names to forget. Your mages, the bird, the lump of meat. He wouldn't even feel it. Just crush his skull like a melon." His yellow eyes flashed, gauging her, waiting. "But you," he murmured, "you looked small, quiet, easy." Zobella's head tilted slightly. So what changed? Nork smiled, wide and dry. You looked back. She met his gaze, not with defiance, but with cold, quiet acknowledgement. You're welcome to try, she said, but you won't leave a scratch on me, and you'll never make it to the next fight. The Varkalak's face twitched, just a small jerk of amusement, not angry, not insulted, amused. You're buying them time, Zobella didn't answer. You know I can smell your fear. That fear has nothing to do with you. My only fear is how I will go on without my brother. She flipped her dagger in the air and caught it, pointing the tip directly at the Varkalak. But you, I'm not afraid of. They stood in silence, predator and prey, neither fully claiming which they were. Then Norix exhaled and slowly turned away. Oh, wait, he said. The meat tastes better when it thinks it's safe. He loped into the shadows without a sound. In moments, the trees had swallowed him again. The wind tasted of salt and something older, something acrid and sharp, like burnt bone. Brokil inhaled deeply, letting the unnatural tang fill his lungs. Around him, the jungle pulsed with a nervous energy. The air itself thrummed, a tangible vibration against his skin. This island, Jockey, was a nexus, a place where the veil between worlds was thin. The Fae had known it, drawing power from the ley lines that crisscrossed the earth beneath his bare feet. Now they were gone, whispers in the wind leaving behind a feast for those strong enough to take it. Brokil, resurrected and revitalized, was strong enough. He knelt before a fire that burned with an unnatural blue flame. It crackled and hissed, spitting sparks that danced like restless spirits. He had fed it well, choice cuts from a boar he had snared earlier, laced with herbs that amplified the island's inherent power. Smoke spiraled upwards, carrying his intentions to the one who had granted him this second chance. Coyote, he rasped, his voice a dry, guttural echo of the man he once was. His people and the spirits had called him Broken Hill. When they had all turned against him, they stripped him of his name and his honor. They had feared his power, the very power he now embraced with unrestrained fervor. But he could not call himself Broken Hill. That name he could not reclaim. I am here. I am ready. The fire flared, casting grotesque shadows that danced and writhed against the surrounding trees. A voice, sly and laced with amusement, echoed in his mind. Ready for what? To be humiliated again? To be cast down like a broken toy? Brokil's jaw tightened. He ignored the taunt, focusing on the image of Coyote that formed in his mind's eye. A trickster, a survivor, a being of immense power cloaked in a casual indifference. Coyote was not good, not evil, but something far more dangerous, unpredictable. I am ready for the tournament, Brokil said, his voice firm, despite the tremor in his hands. I will claim the Yazata's weapon. I will restore the name and honor that was taken from me. Restore? Or take what was never yours? Coyote chuckled, a sound like wind chimes made of bone. The Yazata are not fools, Broken Hill. Their weapons are not meant for mortal hands, especially not hands stained with the blood of your own people. Brokil flinched. The accusation stung, a reminder of the choices he had made in his previous life. Choices born of desperation, of a desire to protect his tribe from the encroaching tide of white settlers. He had used dark magic, yes, but it was for survival. Or so he told himself. I did what I had to do, he said, his voice low and defensive. The path they were leading my people on was dangerous and would have led to their total destruction. I protected my people. Protected or terrorized? Coyote's voice dripped with mockery. You became the very thing you fought against, Broken Hill. A monster in their eyes, and in the eyes of your own tribe. Coyote begins to sneer. And what little good your efforts did in the end, the white man still overcame them, and every other tribe. You betrayed your people for nothing. Broco closed his eyes, battling the memories that clawed at his mind. The fear in the eyes of the villagers, the screams of the colonists, the faces of the dead. He pushed them down, burying them deep within the recesses of his soul. He could not afford to be burdened by guilt, not now. I have learned from my mistakes, he said, opening his eyes, his gaze fixed on the dancing flames. I am stronger now. I am wiser. I will not fail, Coyote. Oh? I was not aware that one could grow so much in the night world. Besides, your declarations are meaningless to me. Coyote laughed again, a sound that sent shivers down Brokil's spine. I care nothing for your success or failure, old man. I simply enjoy the game, the chaos, the endless possibilities. Coyote's words were a cold splash of reality. Broco was a pawn, a tool in a game he barely understood. But he was not a pawn without purpose. He would use Coyote's power and the power of this island to achieve his own goals. He would claim the Yazata's weapon, and he would reshape the world in his own image. He reached into a pouch at his side and withdrew a handful of dried sage. He crushed it in his palms, releasing its pungent aroma. He scattered the leaves into the fire, watching as they flared and turned to ash. Tonight, he said, his voice filled with a newfound resolve, I prepare. Tomorrow I conquer the competition. The fire roared in response, as if Coyote himself was echoing his ambition. The night was alive with unseen eyes, with whispers and shadows. And Brokil, the resurrected shaman, stood ready to embrace the darkness. He would not be broken again. He would be the weapon that shattered his enemies. The tournament would be his proving ground, and Jockey Island would bear witness to his triumph. Broco knelt in the center of a jagged circle of obsidian shards, the air around him shimmering with displaced heat. The jungle night pressed close, a wall of impenetrable green, teeming with unseen eyes, but Brokil saw nothing, felt nothing, beyond the rasping voice that echoed in his skull. Tomorrow, Coyote chuckled, the sound like dry leaves skittering across stone. The games begin, and you, little shaman, will play my hand if you want to win. Brokil's eyes, the color of bruised plums, flickered open. He stared into the heart of the bonfire where the flames danced with unnatural hunger. I am no one's hand, Coyote. I fight to serve myself and no other. The laughter intensified, a psychic assault that threatened to crack Brokil's resolve. Serve yourself? A corpse dragged back from the dirt. You owe me everything, little shaman. I breathed the spark back into your withered lungs. I gave you renewed purpose. I have given you a second chance, and a way to reclaim your identity and power. Brokil clenched his fists, the obsidian shards digging into his skin. He remembered the cold oblivion, the gnawing emptiness of death. Then the impossible warmth, the surge of power as Coyote's essence flooded into his being, resurrecting him, twisting him into something more. Purpose, Brokil spat, the word laced with venom. To be your puppet in this game. Game? Oh, it's much more than a game, shaman. It's a feast. A buffet of power laid out for the taking. And you, my little scavenger, are going to gorge yourself. Coyote's voice dripped with anticipation. What do you mean? Brokel asks. Were you not paying attention today? There is a magic active on this island that bestows onto you the power of those whom you kill. The possibility is endless. There is no limit to the strength that you could acquire here. And there is the matter of the Banokazka, that weapon forged by the Yazata themselves. It hums with otherworldly might. Power enough to reshape the very fabric of this world. Brokel's gaze drifted to the crude map he'd scratched into the dirt beside the fire. Jockey Island, a forgotten nexus of energy. A place where the veil between the worlds thinned. The Fae had once nurtured this place, channeling the Earth's raw power. Now they were gone, whispers, their magic dormant, waiting to be claimed. Coyote sought to fill the void that they had left in the world. He would no longer be a mere trickster spirit. He would ascend to something more, something greater. Brokel in his previous life had trafficked with dark things, things best left undisturbed. He understood power, its intoxicating allure and corrupting influence. But even he, steeped in the lore of forgotten gods and ancient evils, couldn't fathom the depths of Coyote's ambition. Why this tournament? Why this weapon? Why him? Coyote the trickster, jester of the spirit world, was a paradox. He was laughter and chaos, a whirlwind of unpredictable energy. He tripped up the self-important, deflated the pompous, and reminded the universe that even the most meticulously laid plans could unravel with a well-placed prank. But beneath the veneer of harmless mischief lurked something else, something Brokel sensed but couldn't quite grasp. A profound discontent, a hunger masked by humor. Unknown to Brokel or anyone else of his former tribe, Coyote and the other animal spirits, the totems, were also known by another name, Vitir. The totems were of the very same race of primordial spirits as were the familiars, like Amarok. Coyote's motives, as he understood them, were layered and complex, a reflection of the trickster's own multifaceted nature. He wasn't simply seeking power for the sake of domination. He wasn't driven by the same lust for control that consumed so many of the other supernatural entities. His desire was more nuanced. Firstly, there was the element of chaos. Coyote thrived on disrupting the established order, the divine hierarchy, with its rigid structure and self-imposed limitations stifled him. He saw the Yazata, the shining examples of celestial law, as complacent and out of touch. The Banokazka in his possession would be the ultimate instrument of disruption, a cosmic wrench thrown into the gears of the universe. He could rewrite the rules, dismantle the old power structures, and usher in an era of glorious, unpredictable anarchy. Secondly, there was the matter of agency. Trickster spirits, by their very nature, occupied a liminal space within the divine order. They were never fully bound by the laws of the gods, nor entirely free from them. They were the wild cards, the rebels, the ones who questioned authority and challenged the status quo. But their influence was often limited, their power circumscribed by the designated roles as agents of chaos. Coyote craved more. He wanted to transcend his limitations, to break free from the constraints of his assigned role. The Banokazka offered him that opportunity. With it, he could redefine the very nature of a trickster spirit, elevating himself from a cosmic jester to a force of genuine creation and destruction. He could become the architect of a new reality, one where the lines between order and chaos were blurred beyond recognition. Thirdly, and most disturbingly, there was the element of experimentation. Coyote at his core was a curious being. He wanted to see what would happen if he pushed the boundaries of reality, if he tampered with the fundamental forces that governed the universe. The Banokaska was the ultimate toy, a device of unimaginable power that could be used to explore the infinite possibilities of existence. What if he could rewrite the laws of physics? What if he could merge different realities? What if he could create entirely new forms of life? The possibilities were endless, and the potential consequences terrifying. Brokil, despite his own dark past, felt a flicker of unease. He was a tool, a means to an end. But what would happen when Coyote achieved his goals? Would he discard Brokil, or would he find a new, even more twisted purpose for him? The tournament itself was a spectacle of raw, untamed power. Beings from across the hidden corners of the earth and beyond, devils, vampires, Therians, Jotnar giants, and even the Aesir were on the island to vie for the Yazatan prize. Forged by the Sangam sages, highest order of divine magic users, the Banokaska resonated with the fundamental frequencies of reality. In the hands of a benevolent being, it could heal the world, mend broken landscapes, and usher in an era of unprecedented harmony. But in Coyote's hands, Brokil shuddered to imagine. If Brokil won the tournament and delivered the Banokaska to Coyote, the consequences would be irreversible. The divine hierarchy would be shattered. The laws of the world would be rewritten, and the very fabric of existence would be torn apart. The universe would be plunged into an era of unimaginable chaos, a playground for the trickster god. The thought was both terrifying and exhilarating. He imagined Coyote wielding the Banokaska, its celestial energy crackling around him like lightning. He imagined the Yazata, their faces contorted with horror and disbelief, as their carefully constructed order crumbled to dust. He imagined the endless possibilities, the boundless potential for creation and destruction. But he also imagined the suffering, the pain, the utter devastation that would follow. He saw worlds consumed by chaos, civilizations destroyed, and countless lives lost in the wake of Coyote's cosmic prank. The weight of his decisions pressed down on him, heavy and suffocating. He was just a pawn in a game far grander than himself. But even a pawn could change the course of a game. He had to decide. Would he help Coyote achieve his goals, or would he find a way to stop him, even if it meant sacrificing everything? The others, Brokil murmured, his thoughts swirling like smoke. They are formidable, malevolent spirits. Insects. Coyote dismissed them with a snarl that vibrated in Brokil's teeth. They cling to petty power, their ancient grudges. They are bound by rules and traditions. You, shaman, are unbound. You are a storm, a plague, a force of pure, unadulterated chaos, and I will guide you. Brokil's spirit roiled with a dark hunger. He had tasted death, and the memory fueled a desperate need to seize life, to dominate, to consume. He remembered the faces of the colonists, contorted in fear as his magic choked the life from their lungs. He remembered the betrayal of his own people, their superstitious terror as he delved into forbidden knowledge. He would show them all. He would make them understand the price of disrespect. Hooey, Coyote purred, singling out the demon-like Sakari. He is strong and favored by many, but he is predictable. He relies on brute force and on the weight of his reputation. He does not fight with intelligence or cunning. You, shaman, will exploit his weakness. You will use his arrogance against him. I am no trickster like you. I do not fight in that way. Brokil closed his eyes, Picturing the Sicari, a hulking brute wreathed in otherworldly power, he could feel Hui's energy, a palpable weight in the air, but he also sensed the arrogance, the casual disdain for those he deemed beneath him. A weakness he could exploit. Brokil rose to his feet, his body humming with stolen energy. He reached for a pouch made of human skin, drawing out a handful of dried herbs and crushed insects. He tossed them into the fire, the flames erupting in a shower of emerald sparks. The air thickened with the stench of decay and ancient power. Then, nothing. The spirits, Brokil said, his voice a low growl. Their magic still lingers here. I can feel it in the earth, in the water, in the very air I breathe. Use it, Coyote urged, his voice a whisper in the wind. Twist it. Corrupt it. The Fae were fools, clinging to their precious balance. They refused to fight back with their full might, and they paid the price. Brokil extended his hands, his fingers twitching, drawing the latent energy from the island. He felt the pulse of the earth, the whispers of the wind, the echoes of forgotten magic. Will the others also support me? I can no longer freely commune with all of them. Coyote chuckled lightly. That will not be a problem. I will make sure that any of the spirits you call upon will answer. Your victory is in their best interests. Brokil closed his eyes, focusing his will, bending the energy to his purpose. The trees twisted into grotesque shapes, the vines tightening like constricting pythons. He saw the other competitors in his mind's eye, the vampire noble, pale and elegant, the werewolf king, his eyes burning with primal rage, the wind goddess, her face etched with worry and compassion. They too were all pawns in Coyote's game, obstacles to be overcome. Tomorrow, Brokil said, his voice resonating with newfound power. The tournament begins, and tomorrow I will show them all the power of the spirits has not fully left this world. Coyote's laughter echoed through the jungle, a sound of pure, unadulterated glee. That's my little shaman. Now sleep. Tomorrow you will paint this island red. The thinning had been brutal. Hundreds had entered, eager for a chance at wielding the angel-forged weapon. Now only 32 remained, each a formidable warrior, vampires from shadowed castles, devils from Gehenna, mages from forgotten cities, monsters from the darkest shadows of the world. They had all come to jockey, drawn by the allure of the Banukazka. Among them was Norix Barian, king of the Varkalax, a creature of immense power and cunning. Norix was every bit the apex predator. His Varkalak king were a unique breed, descended from the ancient Therians, retaining a cultural identity separate from their more feral brethren. His eyes, the color of molten gold, scanned the beach, taking in the makeshift camps that had sprung up along the sandy shore. He had arrived with no fanfare, maintaining his stealth. Only the elf girl had been able to detect him, but he had circled back around and beat her back here to the beach. He observed the others, noting their strengths and weaknesses, their alliances and rivalries. Unlike many of the other competitors, Norix had not thrown all of his forces into the initial fray. He understood that brute strength alone would not win the Banukazka. Subtlety, strategy, and a willingness to exploit any advantages were the keys to victory. While others had blindly thrown their subordinates into the initial free-for-all, Norix had held back his most trusted Varkalax, keeping them hidden in the dense jungle that fringed the beach. He'd watched, unseen, as lesser creatures tore each other apart, eliminating potential threats without risking his own. Now, as the sun had dipped below the horizon, painting the skies in hues of blood orange and bruised purple, Norks gathered his hidden pack. They met in a secluded clearing, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and unseen blossoms. The jungle hummed with the sounds of nocturnal creatures, a symphony of the wild that both soothed and sharpened their senses. Dacian, Radu, and Mox emerged from the shadows, their eyes gleaming with anticipation. They were his most loyal, his most skilled, each a warrior in their own right. Dacian, the eldest, was a hulking brute, his body scarred from countless battles. Radu was the strategist, his mind as sharp as his claws, always calculating the odds. Mox was the tracker, his senses honed to a level far beyond his already supernatural degree. "The fools are wary," Norik said, his voice a low growl that resonated in the humid air. "They sense the tension, the unspoken threat that hangs over this island. They fear an attack before the tournament even begins." "They are right to fear, my king," Dacian rumbled, flexing his massive hands. "Let us unleash our fury upon them. We will paint the sand red with their blood." Norik silenced him with a raised hand. "Patience, Dacian. We are not mindless beasts. We do not simply charge into the fray. We must be strategic, precise. A direct assault would be costly, alerting the others and uniting them against us." Radu stepped forward, his eyes gleaming with a dozen possibilities all playing out in his mind at once. "I have observed their camps, my king. The mages are the most vulnerable, but their spells are unpredictable." Mox sniffed the air, his nostrils flaring. "I have marked their trails, my king. I know their movements, and where they have set up their camps. The scent of fear is strong among them." Norks nodded, his mind already formulating a plan. "We will not strike them all at once. That would be wasteful. We will isolate them, pick them off one by one, like wolves hunting a herd of deer." He paced before them, waves of power beginning to radiate outward from his form, now unable to keep himself restrained. The thought of slaughter now too strong to resist. "The vampires are too well defended for a direct assault. We will leave them for now. The devils are arrogant, overconfident in their power, and we will use that against them." "How, my king?" Radu asked, his brow furrowed in thought. "Would it not be wiser to remove the mages first? If we allow them this night to plan, their spells may become too much to overcome." "The mages will not be a threat to us," Nork says dismissively. "We should kill the greater threats first, and deal with the humans later. Their magic is unpredictable, their defense is unknown. We will observe them and learn their weaknesses. Then we will strike them when they least expect it." He turned to the third of his Varkalax. "Mox, have you tracked our enemies' movements and discovered their source of water?" Mox nodded. "A small spring, hidden in the rocks not far from their camp." "Good. We can kill them at any time we please. Battling them will not even be necessary. We will taint their water supply. A slow-acting poison. One that will weaken them, make them vulnerable. Radu, you will craft the poison. Powerful yet subtle. Something that they will not easily detect." Radu bowed his head. "It will be done, my king."
Dacian, once the devils are weakened, you will lead the assault. Crush them and leave no survivors.
Dacian grinned, his teeth flashing in the dim light.
It will be my pleasure, my king.
Norks paused, his voice dropping to a whisper.
Remember, we are not simply seeking to eliminate the competition. We are seeking to instill fear, to break their spirits. Let them know that the Varkalax are not to be trifled with.
He looked to each of his Varkalax in turn, his gaze piercing and intense.
The Banokaska will be ours. We will claim it for our people. We will show the world the true power of the Varkalak. No longer will we be treated as rabid dogs of myths and legend. We will put on display our right to rule all creatures of the world, not just those of our tribe. We do more than win a weapon. We take a narrative. Varkalax have been snarled down in myth and fear too long. We will show them the teeth behind our name.
The three Varkalax roared their approval, their voices echoing through the jungle, a promise of death and destruction carried on the night wind. The hunt had begun. The tournament had not yet started, but the game was already underway, and Orcs Barian was determined to win, no matter the cost. The night belonged to the wolves.